Hello, so today I wanted to do a video on how much a gas mask should actually cost you. So we're going to look at two things in this video. The first being, we're just going to look at this one quite quickly, is sort of historical masks, collecting masks for military reasons. How much should they cost you? So this is World War II masks, Cold War masks, that sort of thing. And then we're going to have a look at sort of for prepping reasons, if you are buying a gas mask to protect your life. How much should you be spending on one of those? And there's a few options, so I'll run you through them. So let's quickly jump away and look at a quick World War II example, that sort of thing, and then I'll get on to the prepping side of things. So here we have a British World War II Mickey Mouse children's mask. So World War II masks like this are generally going to cost you a bit more, somewhere £30 plus normally. A lot of the time what I do with gas masks is go on eBay, look for bids that are starting on a mask, and then simply go for a mask when it has low bids and the time's ending soon to try and get one cheaper. Sometimes you'll find good deals and buy it now. Sometimes the person selling it won't know the name of the mask and they just want £10 to £20 for it. Anything like that. But obviously, as masks get older as antiques, the price goes up. With both new and old masks, there's a supply-demand factor. The more masks of a certain type on the market, and the less people that want them, the lower the price. The more the demand goes up, the higher the price gets, and if then you have very few of the masks on the market and there's a high demand, then you're going to have to expect to pay quite a bit. So by that logic, World War I masks will always cost more than World War II masks, but the numbers produced of a certain mask and the demand for it will affect the price. Cold War masks tend to be a lot cheaper if you're wanting to get them as a collector, because there were lots and lots of them made and then never actually used because the Cold War never kicked off. So, as I said, World War II masks and that sort of thing are going to cost you quite a bit more than a Cold War mask, and then World War I masks again will cost quite a bit more that way. So with historical masks, there's always a supply-demand factor in play and the age of the equipment. So let's move on to the prepping side of the equation. Here I have an Israeli 4A1 mask made by Shalon. These are very good masks for sort of buying. If you can find one cheaply, these are very good sort of survival masks. One of the great features about this mask is it's designed for a one-size-fits-all solution. So basically, the straps are very wide and then you tighten them to fit your head. It means often it's not the most comfortable of masks to actually put on, but it should save your life and make a good seal regardless of your head shape and everything like that. A lot of other masks are more comfortable, but you have to know the right sizes before you get them or you'll find they don't fit you properly. So if you can find them cheaply, a 4A1 mask is good. These can be sometimes £30 or dollars on eBay or Amazon, but quite often they can be more or less than that, so you have to look for one at a good price. I've said in other videos, but I'll mention it again. When it comes to masks, although if you're using it for survival this is, although a newer mask is always better, that doesn't mean older masks don't work. Quite often newer masks have nicer features, they're more comfortable, they've got better speech diaphragms, sometimes they have drinking tubes, sometimes they can take 2 filters rather than 1, or those sorts of things, but that doesn't mean they're any actually better as masks often. Generally it's just an intake and an outtake valve, and the rubber and lenses being in a good condition make a mask work. The other day I tested a World War II mask and it surprisingly still worked. I put a new filter on it, but the valves all and everything still worked in the mask. So you don't have to be paying ludicrous amounts of money for something. There's sort of a marketing scam where it's implied as soon as a mask gets beyond a certain amount of years old it's totally useless. And that's not true. Militaries normally take them out of service after 10 to 20 years, simply because of the fact they have very high safety standards regarding their masks and contracts to keep buying new masks. So that's why they often go onto the surplus market. Beyond that, sometimes there could be defective masks on the surplus market, pardon the pun, but it's simply generally because they have a shelf life for their masks, they need to keep them in. So once it's out of their life, the mask is still totally practicable, but health and safety, those kind of standards say you can't keep using a mask after that time period. Now, where pricing is more important, I would say, and year of production, is filters. So a mask won't work without its filter. In this hand, my left hand, probably your right, I'm holding an NBC filter, which stands for Nuclear Biological Chemical. They call these CBRN filters now, which is chemical, biological, radiological and nuclear. I don't know why they changed that, because as far as I'm concerned, radiological and nuclear are the exact same things. And what we have here is a lightweight particulate filter, very light compared to this filter. And a particulate filter is basically just paper or fiberglass, a material like that, with tiny holes in, that's designed to stop things getting free. Now, you'll see here on the particulate filter, hopefully it will be visible on the camera, that says P-free. That means it's particle resistance of free. And this is, when you go away from military filters, you normally start to see an ABEC type rating. And ABEC is basically all the different types of chemicals the filters protect against. So A stands for a group of chemicals, B stands for a group of chemicals, etc. A filter that's ABEC, which is Alpha Bravo Echo Kilo essentially, it means that it protects you against all four of the elements. They call those combination filters. They do multiple things. And what you want to get is what's called an ABEC P filter, which means, if you're buying it through the industrial method, not the military method, it means it pretty much stops all known chemical agents plus particles. So when you're getting those, you always want a particulate filter that says P-free, because particulate, with any of the ABEC letters or particulates, the P, the higher the number the better. I think it only goes up to 3, but for example P-free gives better safety than a P1 rating, because P-free means that you can be working with very fine dusts, such as dust when drugs are being manufactured, pharmaceuticals, whereas P1 would just be if you're maybe doing some drilling or some sanding. So, as I said, P2 is better than P1, but you want P-free because it works against smaller particles in higher concentrations. And P-free filter like this brand new is only about £6, so there's no reason not to go for the higher ones. If you just want a filter against tear gas, then a particulate filter like this will do the job. As I said, in the UK these are only £6 on Amazon, brand new, made by Scott, a reliable company that makes gas masks, and this will do its job against tear gas. Eventually this will clog up when the particles all get stuck on the front, then you'll need to change it or risk having difficulty breathing through it. However, with military sort of NBC filters, although there is a particulate layer right at the front, these also have activated charcoal in part of the filter. Now the activated charcoal is designed like how the ABEC part of an ABEC P filter would work. Anything that can get through the particulate filter, because it's such a fine sort of size, that gets stopped by the charcoal. It's adsorbed to the side. So what that means is basically, if you've got a filter that's both an NBC, CBRN or ABEC P filter, stuff that can get through the first layer is stopped by the second layer. However, the charcoal will eventually expire, so you want to keep these filters sealed until you're ready to use them. And this is where the dates of the filter come in more importantly. This one's dated 1986. I just have it as a training sort of practice filter. This one, when I've tested it, does still work. But obviously if your life's on the line, you don't want to be trusting an old filter. You want to splash the cash a bit and get a few new filters. Now this is where, between an industrial mask and a military mask, things are really going to vary, because what you want to do is find a mask that suits your need and look at the cost of the mask, but also bear in mind the filters. With NATO military masks, I'd advise you only to go for NATO ones and not sort of Russian ones, because the filters are harder to get for the modern safe filters on the Russian masks. It's always a 40mm Stanag connector. So there we go, that's the filter on that mask, and this would fit on the Israeli mask just the same because they all use the same connector. So if you're going for a military mask, you can look up the prices of 40mm filters and take it from there. However, if you're going for an industrial mask, often the filters are built only to fit certain models of mask. So 3M filters, for example, might have a different fitting than Draeger's sort of industrial masks and other brands of industrial mask. So as well as taking the price consideration in of the mask, you also want to take in the price consideration of how much the filters are going to cost. Because personally, I'd rather pay slightly more for a mask and then be able to buy the same filters much cheaper than the other way around. When you're buying sort of filters, if you're keeping them sealed for actual intended use, what I would do is personally buy 1 or 2 filters, keep them sealed, so you know they've got a 10 to 20 year shelf life on the filter. and then buy some surplus filters on top of that to use as training filters, or when you might need a filter but there's not an immediate risk to your life. So that way you're keeping yourself safe, but you're also saving your money that way, and you've got something to train with. Right, hopefully that video's explained things. As for pricing of the masks, you'll find you can get industrial masks that are just a sort of smaller, lower face piece. In the UK, anywhere between £15 and £30. You can buy ones that have the filters built into them, and then you sort of eventually run the mask down, have to dispose of the mask. Or you can get the ones where you can put replacement filters on, but then you have to take into account the price of filters. For full face industrial masks, you're looking anywhere between £70 to over £100 for brand new ones. For military surplus masks, I was lucky enough to get this Avon CT12 for only about £30 or less at the time. So this would be equivalent, if it was brand new, to well over £100 sort of industrial mask. As I said, these Israeli ones you can get for $30, £30 quite often. Not the most comfortable thing, but it will save your life and takes the same filters. Just to demonstrate that, here is the 40mm NBC West German filter, Draeger filter. It just screws on there like that. Then you can of course put the mask on. And there you go. The mask is airtight. As said, not the most comfortable thing, but it's designed to save your life. So something you really need to take into consideration with these is how much you want to be spending on the filters, on the masks themselves, and all those other factors. So obviously getting something that's going to save your life isn't necessarily going to be cheap. You can often, with military surplus masks, get really lucky with a good mask for a good price, but then bear in mind the filters are still going to cost something. So what you'll have to do is, this is completely up to you, look around for something that's in your price range to protect yourself with. And as said, that can vary quite a lot, but take into consideration both the price of the filters and the price of the mask and the availability of the filters. One thing I like about surplus masks compared to industrial masks, as said, is all the NATO ones take 40mm filters, so it's much easier to find more competition between the prices on filters. But that being said, you still have to shop around. Sometimes I can see sealed new NBC filters for about £30 or less, other times for £60+, the exact same filters. Also, some industrial companies make their industrial filters with a 40mm thread, so you could still get an ABEC P filter for one of these masks and it would work the exact same way as an NBC filter. It's just classified not as NBC or CBRN, but as ABEC P, the industrial standard. So hopefully this video has enlightened you slightly on masks and what you should pay for them. As said, it's a supply-demand thing, and the availability of filters, if you're using it as a prepping thing, you really need to take that into consideration. But thank you for watching, and I hope it's been informative.